a huge issue that comes up for a lot of women during perimenopause is sex.
Yep.
There's lots to unpack here, but let me go through some of the things that I've experienced and I've spoken to some women, and then you can talk to that. One is a complete lack of interest in sex. One is no energy for sex. One is no interest in your husband anymore. But another one, which I'm also really curious to know from a psychology point of view, is a lot of women go through this change, this emotional, mental change and growth, where they suddenly realize that the sex that they've been having all their life is the type of sex men want, or that men saw, or that we were conditioned to see through media and that sort of thing. And now, if we are interested, we don't want that, maybe that kind of sex, or we need it to change or something. So I'm really excited to hear your thoughts. I'm just going to let you talk.
Okay. Gosh, where do I start? Other than I will start by acknowledging that you're right. They're all the same things that I hear in the therapy room for sure. And even the things that I might hear at the hairdresser.
Yes.
It is such a profound period of change, both externally and internally, that it's no surprise that it impacts our libido and our relationships, for sure. I guess a couple of things kind of come to mind to start with. And the first one is that if you didn't really have a high libido beforehand, if you didn't really want to be having sex with your partner, if you have one, if you didn't want to be having sex with yourself, if you were single, like if that was absent, often this period of time is not going to, that's just going to be magnified. I do hear as well that you want to have the sex you want to have, you don't want to have the sex that you don't want to have, which kind of speaks to one of the other points that you make. So for many women, they may well say to me, I never really, I wouldn't ever have said I had a high libido, and I definitely can't now. And it's kind of like, well, that makes sense. But it does, it's taken a hit, and that hit is enough to worry some women, impact their relationship more than it did perhaps before hitting this stage. Like there was just enough libido beforehand that things could tick along. But I think women as well start to just really recognise generally beyond sex the things that no longer work for them or fit for them, and the things that they would like to be different. And sex is just one more example of that. And so, often that's really, I guess, a starting point is, well, what is going on for you? What's missing for you? Or what's there that you don't want? And what do you want? And that can be a really confronting question.
And you talking sexually, like what do you want sexually?
Because sometimes what they want, they've got, they're worried about what others might think or their partner might think. They worry, there's, shame, there's so much messaging that we get from the get-go, particularly women, around sex, that it just is this very, very loaded topic, and it becomes even more loaded. But if we dial it back a little bit and just acknowledge that it is a stage of life with the hormones going all over the place, that I find in the therapy room I'm kind of working with, it's not this clean cut, but two types of women when it comes to sex. Those who have really, kind of moved into the fuck it space, and I'm amazing, and I've got all this life experience, and my body may not be this 25-year-old body, but hey, I know who I am and what I want. And so for them, sex can be a real avenue where they feel empowered and get a heck of a lot of enjoyment out of it. There's a real freedom somehow that comes from that change in their psychological makeup.
Is that perimenopause, or is that by the time they get to menopause?
No, that can happen in perimenopause too.
Yeah, because I've actually heard some women say their sex drive has gone through the roof.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that would fuel that is that sense of, I've earned my stripes in life here, and I'm pretty amazing, and look how I just know who I am, and I'm prepared to state what I want. So that brings a heck of a lot of personal confidence.
Yeah.
And confidence, as we know, generally is going to be useful
Yeah.
for our sex drive, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that's kind of one camp.
Yeah.
They're not usually coming to me for that.
Yeah.
Or what they might, maybe if they are, it's in combination with my libido's really increased, but my husband's libido might be dropping, or I'm not having my needs met in this particular relationship. But to be honest, the more common experience for sure for me in the therapy room is hearing women, amongst the many challenges of this stage of life, that is one of them. That is my libido is just non-existent. And for some, as I said, they may have described themselves as not really having a high libido in the first place.
Yeah.
Before this, I've definitely heard women say, if I never have sex again, I don't care. And that can happen before perimenopause. And often, if that's going on before perimenopause, well, again, it's just going to continue. Like, I don't care. It's not important to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the fuss is about.
Yeah.
But there really is a lot of women who miss having a libido.
Yeah.
Who have enjoyed sex with partners themselves, however, whatever, and are really experiencing a loss of something that has been important to them, has enabled them to experience pleasure in that particular kind of specific way, and miss it.
Yeah.
And if they are in relationships, miss that wanting their partner, miss that wanting to have that kind of intimacy.
I think there might be a third person.
Yeah.
Or maybe this person fits into one of those two. What about the woman who is still very much conditioned to serve their husband and knows that they should have sex, and they worry about their husband leaving them or something, so they force themselves maybe to go through with it, and then but actually, like, it's painful, they don't want to, they start to develop like resentment and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, again, I often see women who are experiencing that, and they would say it's just a magnification of something they've experienced before. It's not like they've really wanted to be having sex with their husband. Maybe it hasn't met their needs, and this stage of life really magnifies it.
Okay.
Yes, there are certainly women out there who've enjoyed sex, and then all those kind of things, like it's painful and the libido's gone and all that stuff kicks in, and they may kind of go along with the sexual behaviour and intimacy with their husband. Typically, and it becomes a very loaded conversation between them and their partner. It becomes something that they often don't want to tell their partners. And there may be that sense of, I should be having sex, but I guess the picture you painted was a little bit more, in my mind, of a woman who hasn't maybe been able to assert herself in that way, even before perimenopause. Yeah. Either way, it's a very difficult scenario. How do you sit down and say to your partner, because the woman who maybe enjoyed it before but is now not enjoying it because the libido's gone and it's painful, all the rest, she herself is most likely to be missing it. To be missing that part of her life. Yeah,
so she's motivated to do something about it.
She's motivated to do something about it. She's also not just doing it because she thinks it's her responsibility as a partner. She's doing it in this eternal hope to recapture something she used to enjoy. Yeah. But the reality is, with low libido and pain, there's disappointment each time. Therapeutically, it's very different from working with women who want sex, or who want sex but no longer have that libido. Like there's the psychological desire, and then there's the really physiological libido elements, and also then the pain. And so a lot of the women I work with do still have the desire. They want to, but the body's not.
Okay.
So there's the psychological, I want to connect with this part of myself and with my partner in this way, but the physiological libido is not there.
Yeah.
And that may also be accompanied by pain.
Yeah.
And that's a very different place to start working with someone than haven't been interested for ages and I don't care. I don't care if I never want it again. Can you hear the slight difference?
Yeah, no, I hear the difference. I still feel like there's the woman that might have enjoyed it before and then goes through, like during perimenopause, hates their partner and almost like, if you touch me, I don't want. But that person probably wouldn't come to you, or maybe they'd come to you for something other, but they wouldn't want to talk about sex. Well, because sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time when I have spoken about sex on the podcast, I mean on TikTok, I've had more comments than not say, I am not interested.
Yeah.
I have no desire to help my husband out in that way or to even go down that route.
Yeah.
So,
and my question, or what my curiosity would be, is that a sign of the health of the relationship overall, or is it simply perimenopause has shifted it? Like, did it pre-exist perimenopause? Like, these are the many things to unpack. If they were interested and now they're not interested at all, do they wish they were interested? And if not, then that's a whole different ball game.
Well, I can tell you from my personal experience that hitting perimenopause and realizing, holy crap, I'm carrying all this extra load and I am fed up with that.
Yeah.
And now I do not want to move a centimeter in your direction.
Yeah.
Until you meet me halfway.
Yeah. And that's bigger than sex. It impacts sex.
Yes,
but I guess that's what I'm trying to say is there's other parts of the relationship and also life, but of the relationship that can really impact desire or no desire. Because if we think of desire as the psychological component and then libido as the physiological, if you are in a relationship where you're doing everything, you've got the whole emotional and practical load of running a house and all the rest, and you're feeling as though your partner isn't actually contributing, maybe not even noticing all of that, that breeds general resentment.
Yeah.
Are you going to want to have sex with someone who you resent? No.
Yeah.
But that is
then coupled with low libido.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a very important issue in and of itself, and also because it impacts women's sex, drives and stuff like that during this period of time. Like if you look at your husband and you're like, you just piss me off, full stop. You're not, whether he's approaching you for sex or not, you're not going to want to go there.
Yeah. It sounds so much more complicated than I thought.
It is.
I thought we'd sit here and you'd be able to give the answer. But it really does depend on the person's experience and their context.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for me, women are such multifaceted people, and I maybe shouldn't say that. That doesn't imply that men aren't, but I'm just going to speak about women. And for us to tap into all these feelings, including our desire and our libido, we need to be in a good place, right? We need to be feeling good in ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about having sex with someone else, we actually need to be in a good place with them and our relationship with them. And whether the resentment is a long-standing resentment or whether you've just your partner's just really, or they've just really, kind of driven you insane. You've had a particularly challenging conversation. It's unlikely to turn you on. You're not, So the quality of the relationship that you have is a very big factor. Definitely not the only factor. Yeah. But it's if you go into perimenopause with a challenging relationship, a relationship where there's all this in it, and then you add low libido, and then you add dry vagina and painful sex, it ain't gonna happen. Yeah.
And a lot of women these days, because they had children later than our mothers, have young children going through perimenopause. So that's another.
Oh yeah, I'm so grateful. That's not me.
I'm so
sorry
grateful.
To all of you out there that it might be, but far out. And the interesting thing is all of that is very, very true. And of course, there's these kind of 4 stages in a woman's lifespan where her hormones are going nuts, right? And so we've got puberty, pregnancy, postpartum, and obviously perimenopause. And these really significant stages are where our hormones are either, fluctuating, they're going up in puberty, and they're going up in pregnancy, come crashing down postpartum, and have a decline in perimenopause. And these, as you know, all our hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, are way more important than just for our fertility, right?
Yes, yeah.
And our sex drive. But nonetheless, they're still important for those kinds of things. And so postpartum, even if you're often touched out, you're feeding babies, you're caring for babies, you're wiping noses, your body is the personal gymnasium that they're climbing all over and all the rest. And having that physical touch, even with lovely intent, even if it's from a partner who you think is the bee's knees, can just be too much. It can just be like, I need space. I need physical space, and I need psychological space as well. So that is a very real challenge for sure, because there's a whole bunch of things going on physiologically and also then psychologically and in the relational kind of dynamic.
So I met this woman who, and I have told you this before, but I'm going to tell you again because for the sake of context. I met this woman whose husband had an affair. She was with this man her husband for a long time. He had an affair. She went through perimenopause and realized during this time that she had just devoted her whole life to him and done nothing for herself. So she started doing hobbies and things that she liked. And I can't remember what the hobby was, but it was really interesting, very creative. And he got very annoyed because she wasn't giving him her time anymore. Now she was doing all these other things. And she put on weight. And then he had an affair and blamed her because she put on weight and ignored him. And he left her. And she was quite devastated. But her body, she had described it as shut down by then, And then she met another man. And she said she hadn't had a period in months. It might have even been a year. I don't know, but it was a long time. And she met this other man, and they started a relationship. And she said that the sex was incredible. Yes. And she said her body came alive again. Yeah. And it just felt amazing. And she wanted to have sex, and she could feel like the hormones and the glow. She got a period again. And she lost weight because naturally, like without even trying, because she just felt so good, and her body came alive again. So that made me, and then I made a TikTok about it, and I had quite a few women say that, and even quite a few women say they actually leave their husbands for other women. Interestingly enough, and then have great sexual experiences, and their bodies come alive again. So then it made me wonder and think, maybe sex is actually important in our life and for our bodies during this time, especially to help it in some way. I don't know.
Yeah, the interesting thing is I'm pretty sure the World Health Organization has actually stated that our sexual health and our sexuality is part and parcel and integral to our overall physical and mental health. Yeah. Now, some women would say, no, I'm not interested and I feel really good about myself. And in those instances, I guess, I'm really stoked for them because the messaging they would get would be otherwise. Do you know what I mean? And so if they can stand strong in I'm genuinely in a really good place, but that's just not something I need or want in my life, I'm like, awesome, you're happy, like you're cool. But for a lot of us, we do need to acknowledge that the majority of us, it's a really important part of our well-being, and but again, it's so loaded for a lot of women. I'm not surprised that a new partner, certain parts of our brain just light up with new, whether you're clearly for an ADHD like me, that's definitely the case, but for non-ADHDers, new romances and things, a whole bunch of really lovely hormones are kicking off there. Parts of our brain, our reward centers are just going, lit up like Christmas trees. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. I guess the other thing, again, being a psych, I go back to the psychology. So this is a relationship where it's a clean slate. There's not all that history that has a lot of nuance and some of which is negative. but there's also I can be new in this relationship. So there's freedom and flexibility to shake off, you know, old versions of herself. Literally, was that what she did? You know, and be able to form a new relationship with this other person as this new person she is. It's very hard to do that in established relationships.
That's true.
I often talk about kind of relational dynamics, like, you know, partner dancing, and you know, when you've been together for a long time, you both have learned to do the waltz, keep waltzing, rah rah rah, but sometimes somebody wants to do the tango. And they start the tango with their partner, and the partner's like, no, we don't tango, we waltz. You keep getting drawn back into that same dance. Well, this woman may have thought of, you know, wanted to do the tango, and she found someone who
to tango with,
literally. And of course, all of that then means she's more able to create the kind of relationship, choose the partner and create the kind of relationship that really fits this midlife version of herself. And from there flows well-being and happiness and all that kind of stuff. So, it doesn't surprise me, those stories. I mean, that's my story.
Do you felt your body came alive as well?
I wouldn't say it was dead.
Okay.
But I feel as though my choice of partner is very different at this stage of my life to, you know, my ex-husband. And I often kind of wonder, the version that I am now, how that would have gone with my ex-husband. I was actually a lot more easygoing when I was married. I'm a lot less easygoing, which I'm quite happy about.
Yeah, because you know your boundaries, you know who you are. And
my partner, we've been together for quite some time now, but he's very easygoing, thank goodness. He's the easygoing one and the very accepting one. And all those things in the bedroom are lots and lots of fun.
It's a true story then.
True story. That story is actually not too dissimilar from mine. I mean, I guess for me, it's working out whether this is solely them, or whether the nature of the relationship is also playing a role. You know, I think that's the first step that women need to think about is, sure, they might be saying, I can't stand my husband. But when they say that, are they saying, I can't stand my husband because he doesn't listen to me, he doesn't support me, you know, I'm carrying everything and he has no interest in, you know, kind of doing his bit, or, you know, I think those are important questions for women to ask themselves. Sometimes the question of, would you choose the same partner again? That's right now, as you both are as people, would you choose this person again? Do you even want to find your sexual self again? Is a part, you know, is a good question.
But if your sexual health is so important, then you should want to, for yourself, for your own health. And
you should. You should. It's a really difficult one, because I'd like to say, yes, I hope women find their way back to their sexual selves and find ways to nourish that part of themselves. At the same time, it is such a rock show of an experience, perimenopause, isn't it? That I guess I don't want women to feel, you know, that any more pressure than they already do, right? Maybe what it's about is holding in mind that it is a really important part of our mental health for the vast majority of us, and that while it may not be, you know, their number one priority now, as they find their feet in this delightful stage, that they don't overlook the importance of that. And when they feel as though they've maybe got a bit of a handle, maybe they've found some kind of support, whether it's hormone therapy or whether it's natural remedies, whether it's lifestyle, any of the pathways to support themselves, when they're at a stage where they feel like, things still aren't great, that can be a misnomer. Like, people can kind of expect them to be great, and I'm not sure that that happens for many of us. But when they feel as though things are a bit steadier, and they're a bit more aware of what's going on and feel a bit more able to influence how their symptoms are showing up, to turn their mind to their sexual selves and really, really recognise that their sexual self is a part of who they are. And therefore, it's really important for them to be thinking, what are my needs and wants, and in all dimensions of their life, not just the physical. And therefore, what are the steps that might be, worthwhile taking to try and nourish that part of themselves, to reconnect with that part of themselves.
So what are some steps?
You might kind of think, wow, that seems left of centre, but one of the biggest things is sex is supposed to be pleasurable, right? And I generally find that women have shelved all versions of pleasure quite a lot while they're kind of building careers, raising families and all that kind of stuff. I often talk about, we put those things on the shelf. And pleasure is definitely one of them, and joy is definitely one of them. And so I often find women have this niggle to start kind of doing things that they enjoy and doing things that they find pleasurable. And I would certainly say start there. And those things may have nothing to do with sex initially. But when you start bringing pleasure and joy back into your life, it does actually start to activate, for want of a better word, desire.
I love that.
And the nourishing of that sexual part of ourselves. I mean, I think women should do that anyway, right? Have pleasure and joy in their lives. But this is a time where, because sex has maybe lost its pleasure and is no longer joyful because of all the things we've talked about, they can find pleasure and joy in other ways. And really be mindful when they're in the thick of whatever is pleasurable for them or joyful for them. And the more they bring that into their lives, the more likely they are to find that they're starting to get that feeling. Maybe this libido is returning. Maybe this, sexual side of myself is starting to show herself again.
Or maybe they'll be motivated to go and get testosterone or something that will help them with the physiological.
Definitely. Because there is research that shows that for women with low libido, testosterone can be really, really effective. So that's definitely something that, for women to consider for sure. And as they do that, then the interesting thing can happen, which is, my libido's back, but I still don't feel like having sex with him. So that's actually when you can start to see, okay, it's maybe that there's elements of the relationship here and stuff to be working on. And, the decisions women make from there, I want them to be considered decisions. I don't want, women to shoot from the hip and leave their husbands, leave their kids, go and do an eat, pray, love.
Bad decision.
And then, come home and regret it. But, go through a process of really, really understanding deeply what, if the libido's back, what this, the libido's back, but please still don't touch me.
Or you get the libido back with the testosterone and it's higher than the husband's.
Oh, that's which can happen. Absolutely. There's a heck of a lot. As you know, I went to So Hot Right Now a couple of weekends ago, and I think Dr. Kelly Casperson was saying that 40% of men have issues with their libido and erectile function at 40, and in their 50s it increases to 50%, and in the 60s it increases to 60%. I'm pretty sure I've understood those stats correctly, but men take a hit too. Their testosterone declines as well. And that's a very big part of their testosterone, their kind of libido. And what's also part of that is how they feel about themselves and how they feel about their partners. We can't ignore that. Either. So then it might well be a relationship issue. And there's amazing psychologists, couples therapists, clinical sexologists that can help individuals and or couples work through that specific
Yeah.
kind of challenge and come out the other side in a better place.
Because I think during perimenopause, women can become difficult. I say difficult. I mean, I became difficult, but I mean, because I started to feel like I'm not, started to push back a lot. So that's also, that is going to affect the way the husband sees the wife and whether they want to have sex with the wife as well, I suppose.
Yes. And I mean, that's saying...
Or the female partner.
The dynamic changes, and for some men that could create a challenge, in finding the partner not as desirable.
Yeah.
Because they're getting that pushback.
Yeah.
And then that goes into roles and patriarchy and all sorts of kind of places as well. But in those instances, I think sometimes people need the support of that objective therapist and stuff, either to work it out and understand things more deeply individually or as a couple.
Yeah. It sounds like if couples had some more fun together as well, in line with what you were saying, finding pleasure for yourself again, that also might help.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of research around, trying new things together. And that's not just necessarily trying new things in the bedroom, but just trying new things, re-engaging with things that you used to enjoy doing as a couple. Life just kind of trots along, right? And it's very easy to have things fall away because you're busy, as I said, building careers, meeting your financial responsibilities, raising families, maybe even looking after older parents and elderly parents and things. And years can pass and you kind of look up and think, sure, we went to the movies and we went out for for dinner and things, but where did we find real fun? Genuine kind of a big feeling of fun and joy. And a lot of couples would say, the dates were nice, the movies were cool, the dinner was lovely, all of that kind of stuff. But they wouldn't necessarily say it was fun or joyful or pleasurable. Yeah. So we want those experiences that bring those words to people's minds and lives. Yeah.
What could women in perimenopause do to help themselves? And if it includes sex, that's great. If not, whatever.
I think the biggest thing is something that you've mentioned a few times, and it's certainly part of my menopause experience, and that is pushback. I think we find our voices, and the more that we can express our needs and our wants and our yeses and our nos, that is a really good feeling. Now, it can rock the boat because it changes the dance, right? Whether it's the sexual dance or just the relational dance. I'm not necessarily saying it's easy, but it's very much a way to honour yourself and this woman that you're evolving into, which brings me, I guess, to the next suggestion is to really, really start spending time understanding yourself and knowing what's really important to you, pursuing the things that are going to bring you joy and pleasure and interest, and stop apologizing.
Stop apologizing.
Yeah, that's such a habit for us.
And accommodating when you don't need to or when it's actually not right. And it's not a permission slip to turn into an absolute unreasonable,
inconsiderate cow. That's not at all what I'm saying, but most women have a very, very long way to go before they'd even get close to that. And there's a lot of speaking up that is really valid. It's kind of like, I often feel like, let's harness this time, these hormones that are making us a bit cranky and bold. Let's harness that for good. And what I mean by that is that gives us the courage to speak up. And I think that's really a key thing. Like that's the good stuff from this time of life.
It is. Because I'm in the menopause side now, and I would say I'm the best version of myself I've ever been. Going through the cycles that you go through with perimenopause, and I mean it's chaotic and it's a nightmare, but it's so worth it.
I agree. Me too.
Cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So
Lots of fun.